This training video shows how to use subsystems in AudioWeaver. I'm going to start with some of the basic principles and then go into an actual example. Subsystems are used to manage complexity of large systems. Otherwise, if you just had a single layout, you'd have hundreds of modules and it would be difficult to maintain. What you would do is you would drag the subsystem module from the module browser, drag it into your layout. You can navigate in and out of the subsystem. And whenever you open up a subsystem, it adds another tab at the top of the designer window, and then you can navigate in and out by clicking on the tabs. By default, subsystems have one input, one output pin. You can add as many input and output pins as you want. And what happens is subsystems, when the system is built, the subsystem is flattened so that when the overall system is built, having a subsystem doesn't add any overhead. No overhead in terms of MIPS or memory. Subsystems can also have pins, and input pins are numbered sequentially as you drag them out, and then they correspond from top to bottom to pins on the top level system. You can rename pins, and by default, the names are in and out, and in order not to clutter up the system on the top, if it's called in or out, we don't show the name, but if you change it, in the example here, there's a crossover, and so we name the output pins LPF and HPF, and so those pin labels would be drawn on the top level system. Let's go ahead and look at a subsystem in AudioWeaver. Here I have an AudioWeaver system that implements an SPL meter, and so this is built for the H747, and so we essentially take one of the microphone signals, convert to floating point, and then we go through the following chain. There's a DC blocking filter, there's an audio weighting module, so we can select A weighting, C weighting, or flat. We compute the RMS, convert to dB, and then we add an offset here of 120 dB. That converts from digital levels to SPL, and then on the output here, we plot the values. So what I'd like to do is I would like to take these 5 modules, put them into a subsystem. So let's start. I'll search for subsystem. I'll drag out a subsystem module. I can also change the name. I'll put SPL here. And then I'll select the modules that I want to take. And I'll just cut and paste them into the subsystem. So you can see the input and output pins here. You can see additional tab on the top. I'm going to go to the top, I'm going to get these labels, and I'll switch back to SPL, put this into here, move it up, here we go. Go to the top level system, add the SPL meter subsystem, add the output modules. I'm all set. I can now build and run, and I have a working SPL meter that's calibrated here, sitting next to me. This is running in real time. So let's take this example a little further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a pin to the subsystem, allowing us to set the sensitivity externally. So I can navigate in either by using the top tab or just double clicking. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another pin to the subsystem. And I'm going to call this pin sensitivity. And if I go to the top system, you'll see now that there's another pin here called sensitivity on this SPL subsystem. So let's go back in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this scale offset module. And so I want to implement this equation, 94 minus sensitivity. So the gain is going to be -1, that does a subtraction, and it'll be 94. So this is going to implement this equation. And so I want to take this and write this into the offset variable there. So I'll get a param set, and I'm going to configure this. So we're going to write into the variables or the module scale offset 1 dot offset. So this guy is going to basically write directly into this variable here. Let's navigate to the top back to the top. I can right click and say navigate up. There's a sensitivity pin, and I need a DC source module where I'm going to set the sensitivity. And I'm going to change the variable, so I can go from like -50 to 0. And I'm going to set it in this case to -26. And now I'll build and run. And then this is all working as before. And I can directly change the sensitivity here. So you can see it's kind of inverted. So back to -26. So it's a full example of subsystem, showing you how to build subsystems, use them in practice.